Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is my hope and prayer that this video is actually going to find you guys in good health. Personally, I am fine. Kisumu is also fantastic. Maybe you could let me know where you're watching the video from, the county or the country, in case you are out of the republic. President William Samoei Arap Ruto today addressed the nation, and I paid very close attention to William Ruto's address to the nation. And my conclusion is that William Ruto has agreed to come down. Sakayo ameshuka. By the time of doing this video, Raila Odinga was yet to address the nation. Actually, 1 hour later, because Raila Odinga was supposed to address the nation at 7 p.m. It's exactly by the time of doing this, because I know editing and the rest will take another time, it was exactly 19:05. So we are still waiting for Raila Odinga's response to William Ruto's address. But for me, this far, I can only conclude that Raila Odinga has already recorded first round win against William Ruto, just by the fact that William Ruto has already agreed to meet one of the demands. Before these demonstrations, Raila Odinga had issued 3 demands to William Ruto. And he told Ruto, if these 3 demands were not going to be met in 14 days, I was going to lead my supporters to demonstrations. The 3 demands were cost of living. The other one was the IEBC Reconstitution of the commission. And the last one was about the servers. I've read William Ruto's speech today. I've read William Ruto's statement today. He has agreed to one. And for me, that is one of the most critical of all of them. And for those who follow my channel very closely, I once opined, I think either yesterday or today, that the reconstitution of IEBC is going to be critical because it's going to determine who becomes the next president of the Republic of Kenya, and also it's going to determine how the boundaries are going to be created. Remember, we're going to have boundary limitation. I think, is it this year or next year? So that commission is going to be very, very important. The fact that William Ruto wanted to have complete say was something which was going to be a big blow. And in fact, Raila Odinga was not going to participate in the election. And William Ruto addressed the other issue of cost of living, that his government is doing what it can to lower the cost of living. And for the servers, he has not talked about it. In that speech, if you listened to it very closely, William Ruto is suggesting that the elections were actually free and fair and was actually done with. So I don't want to get into that much, but let me just walk you through this particular statement, because I want to explain to you guys why, personally, I think Sakayo ameshuka. Rigathi Gachagua had to rush to attend this meeting. And from the body language, from the photos coming there, you can clearly tell that Rigathi Gachagua was not happy. I don't want to go through the entire statement, but allow me just to go through some. It says that in the past 2 weeks, our country has experienced grave acts of lawlessness, widespread violence, looting, and invasion of private property by persons taking advantage of political demonstrations called by the opposition. From that statement alone, you can clearly tell that William Ruto is actually exonerating the Azimio, organizers of this demonstration, from the blame that they were orchestrating looting, blah, blah, blah. Because he's saying here very clearly that by persons taking advantage of political demonstrations called by the opposition. And he's saying, number 2, that during this period, lives have been lost, people injured, properties looted or destroyed, economy has suffered, and our image as a nation dented. So he's actually accepting that the image of the country has now been dented, that the economy has suffered. Now, this is a man who just a few weeks ago was telling Kenyans, and his supporters were also telling Kenyans, that Ruto is not Uhuru, Ruto is not Kibaki, and Ruto is not Moi. Leo ameshuka. And it's also saying that our security agencies have endeavored to do everything within the law to protect the lives and properties of all citizens. Nevertheless, the violence, the chaos, the disorder continues to distract our national focus on economic transformation. Now, still just continuing, 3 Kenyans, amongst them a police officer, have lost their lives in the protest. More than 100 Kenyans, including at least 60 security officers, have been injured. And he's saying police vehicle was burnt to ashes. Nobody saw that police vehicle. That I think is propaganda by the police. While another hijacked and commandeered. This I think was just, you see the case in Oyugis. This was just the drama because these guys never took the vehicle. It continues, number 5, that our country's image and history in the League of Modern Nations have been at stake. The country's economy had hit. My administration has instituted solid measures and policies to attract investors through their investment and create opportunities for millions of our young people to realize their potential. We cannot allow these efforts to be derailed. Now, here at number 6 is where he's addressing the issue of the servers. He's saying, we all have an obligation to respect the Constitution of Kenya. This also includes respect for the institutions established and created by the Constitution. Our country's electoral system and processes is anchored in the principles of the Constitution. The IEBC conducted a free, fair, and transparent general election, a poll that was observed by different organizations, local and foreign. The commissions declared the results for all 6 election conducted, and any contestant who was aggrieved by the outcome had an opportunity to present their grievances to the country's judicial system for arbitration. He's saying at number 7, which I think is important, the Supreme Court of Kenya had and determined with finality the 2022 presidential elections dispute and ruled on the petition that were filed by aggrieved contestants and their supporters. Now, that's where he's talking of the servers. You know, even if you are Ruto, what would you do? You will not accept that these elections were rigged. You won't accept that. And he's saying at number 8, that nevertheless, I have carefully listened. Now, ameanza kushuka chini. I've carefully listened to the issues raised by Honorable Raila Odinga. In times like this, it is not about who is right and who is wrong. Like Winston Churchill said, I dare say that courage is what it takes to stand up and speak, but it's also what it takes to sit and listen. So basically, William Ruto has finally agreed to listen. And he's saying that I have been ready to engage Kenyans of all walks of life, including elected and appointed leaders from across the political divide and the religious fraternity on how to make our country better and more prosperous. My door still remains open for honest, objective, and sincere deliberations based on the rule of law and the Constitution. He's talking of the rule of law and the Constitution. Now, let me tell you the most important thing of this particular statement is where now he's talking of on the reconstitution of the future electoral commission. The selection panel that is currently in office is a creation of the law that was passed by the 2 chambers of parliament in response to a court decision. The court clearly stated that one institution, in this case parliament, cannot dominate the process of establishing an electoral commission at the expense of other institutions that have a role to play in the country's electoral process. However, considering the matters raised on this particular subject, I suggest a bipartisan engagement in Parliament on the re-establishment of the IEBC panel within the parameters of law and the Constitution. This is what Raila Odinga was calling for, that William Ruto cannot single-handedly appoint the commissioners. And they proposed a kind of IPPG, for those who remember the IPPG, was it of 1997, which birthed the IEBC, the Isaka San-led commission. What was the name? But now let us see how this thing is going to to move forward, because at number 12, William Ruto is suggesting that in any case, as a Democrat and guided by the Constitution, I on 9th December 2022 send a memorandum to speakers of the National Assembly and the Senate requesting for purposive intervention on implementation of the two-third gender rule, enactment, entrenchment in the Constitution of the Constitution CDF, Senate oversight and National Gender Affirmative Action Fund, and establishment of the position of the official opposition and the improvement of parliamentary oversight of the executive. So basically, what William Ruto is telling you here is what he's offering Raila Odinga, that we are going to offer you guys the position of the official opposition in parliament. Let us wait for what Raila Odinga is going to say. Because if you follow politics, today William Ruto was not in any church. Raila Odinga also missed that church service which was attended by his team. Where were these two gentlemen? These two gentlemen were holed up somewhere, discussing and fine-tuning all this. Whether they agreed or not, we still can't tell. We will be waiting for Raila Odinga's speech. But for me, I paid very close attention to William Ruto, and my understanding is that William Ruto is trying to address the international community. This statement basically is telling the international community that my position is this, I've agreed to come down to this. Now he's throwing the ball back to Raila Odinga. Will Raila Odinga proceed with the Mandamano? Let us wait and see. The other thing I'm getting here is that William Ruto is acknowledging the role of the church, that the church actually played a critical role in brokering this particular deal. And lastly, his willingness to participate or his willingness to come down. Let us wait and see what is going to come out, because William Ruto also cannot just come out and tell Kenyans that I've agreed to the 3 demands by Raila Odinga. He will be foolish. He must agree to some, he must also not agree to some, so that people cannot be on the table. After this, Raila Odinga will also issue his statement, say, okay, for me, for us as a team, these are what we are going to do. We are going to continue with the demands, with the mandamanos, and what we are asking you guys, ensure the mandamanos are peaceful, withdraw the police. But we are going to proceed with the mandamano until such a time when these demands are met. Or alternatively, it's going to call off the mandamano, but with a rider that they'll be watching very closely. And should there be anything, they will proceed. So let us wait for Raila Odinga's statement. But why do I strongly believe that this is a win for Raila Odinga? Number one, William Ruto has come down. And that is the biggest thing. He's saying that on the issue of IEBC Reconstitution, let us have a bipartisan approach. Raila Odinga told him to stop. Everybody told him to stop the selection panel. He went ahead very fast, pointed a name, gazetted them. So which means as of today, that selection panel is null and void. Even if they were to disagree and the selection panel were to go ahead, then someone can actually go to court and challenge it. So that's number two. It also shows that Raila Odinga had serious issues with the way William Ruto was conducting the affairs of the nation. For me, I'll be waiting gladly to hear Raila Odinga's response in terms of servers. Because for me, how can William Ruto respond on the issue of servers? He was not the IBC. Again, for that, probably it was just a rider. So maybe Raila Odinga is going to say that we are waiting for IBC to open for us the server. But if you look at the 3 demands for me, the issue of the server, I don't think Ruto can open it. Because that's IBC. IBC is supposed to be independent. So probably that's why he avoided talking about it. On the issue of a selection panel, that's directly under him. Maybe that's why he opted for it. Then the other one was the issue of cost of living. William Ruto cannot just accept that the cost of living has gone up. And that's why they are clinging to the lie that when they took over, the cost of unga was 136, which is a lie. It was 226, which is a lie. Today I've just bought unga at 200. Before we were going for an election, the cost of unga based on the subsidy was around 100. Actually, it was 100 bob. I remember the way people used to scramble, people used to line up. Carrefour here in Kisumu, you'd find line imeenda mpaka, because it was 100 and you could only be given, I think, was it a maximum of two packs of 5 kgs. So Sakayo ameshuka chini. But the biggest question now why Raila Odinga has won is the IEBC selection panel. Are we going to have the IPPG kind of thing, or is it going to be parliament? Remember, this particular IEBC selection panel is going to select the commission. The commission is the IEBC, according to the Supreme Court ruling. That IEBC will determine which constituencies will be wiped off, how boundaries are going to be filled, whether new counties are going to be created or not. It's that particular commission, which means if things will go the way they want, then Raila Odinga will actually have an insider in the commission. So probably in the next election, we are going to have political parties seconding their commissioners. I don't know, but I'm looking at it like that. And lastly, it also helps Raila Odinga in this disbanking the myth that Ruto is not Uhuru. The fact that he can come down. And his supporters believe that Ruto is not Uhuru. Ruto is not Kibaki. Ruto is not Moi. No handshake. You see, nobody called for handshake, for heaven's sake. What Raila Odinga told the Kenyans are those three issues. So let us wait and see what Raila Odinga is going to give on the other side. Thank you, and may you have a good day.